Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve. I started doing these weekly Sunday night streams just to vent about politics, Christianity, what have you. I don't have a name for this. I'm just kind of practicing, getting used to speaking, which I don't do very often. I do accounting, so I sit in my office and do accounting all day, so I don't have a lot of practice talking to people. Or just talking to a camera, which is very weird if you've never done it before. Anyways, tonight we are going to talk about, there was a lot going on this week. I could have talked about Candace Owens, or Don Lemon, he's such a moron. But I'm going to talk about the CIA, or the deep state, and whether or not saying Christ is king is anti-Semitic or not. Before we do, I got to poke fun at Joe Biden. And, he had a Jeb Bush moment where he said, please clap. Check this out. I kid you not. Where are we at? Here it is.
Ireland now is one of the top 10 investors in the United States economy. And our country stand proudly for liberty and against tyranny. We stand together and oppose Russia's brutal war of aggression in Ukraine. You can clap for that, please.
This guy can barely read. It's so bad. And then he had a Jeb Bush moment asking them to clap. I don't know. What is this? GE Force. All right. That's pretty crazy. And then I saw this, which is totally goofy. I know this is so crazy, but it made me laugh, so I included it.
I've had to remove every single social tie. I had severe PTSD from this. I contemplated suicide. It got really bad. You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so
fine.
It's really hard.
I don't know who made this. Dilly Mean Team, Trump's online war machine. I don't know what that is. Obviously, if you haven't seen this original clip, it's Taylor Lorenz, who is a horrible journalist. And yeah, man, these AI tools and whatnot, they're getting pretty wild. This is more like a face swap, but they did his voice saying what Taylor Lorenz was saying. I got to tell you, I'm excited for this upcoming election season. This is just the beginning of AI and this kind of stuff. There's going to be a lot of great stuff out there, and I'm looking forward to it. Oh, this is it. C3P meme. That's who did it on Twitter. I found them. I'm sure they're on other outlets. But yeah, I've seen them before. But anyways, that made me laugh. All right, we're going to dive into this. The Candace Owens Daily Wire split kind of was big news this week. And a lot of folks accusing Candace Owens of being anti-Semitic, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I don't really want to focus on her so much. However, this is another host who has his own show. I've never really watched this guy. I only kind of know of him tangentially. What's that word? I only know of him when he's been on panels with other Daily Wire hosts and whatnot. And from what I understand, he's a Christian. At least that was the impression I got. I think he calls himself a Christian, I believe. But you won't believe this. You got to listen to this. Listen to what he says here. How long is this clip? This is, less than 2 minutes.
Grown. When I did this, by the way, the priest who baptized me said, Christians won't accept you. You'll still be a Jew. And I said, well, I am. That's my race. I'm a Jew. I'm proud of my race. It's a great race. It's done many, many great things, including write the Bible. And, I am a Jew. But that hasn't happened at all. Christians have welcomed me with open arms, except this Christ the King anti-Semitic crowd. Christ is the King, and one day every knee...
So he's reading this. So this isn't off the cuff. He's reading his thoughts here. This Christ is the King crowd, he says. Let me rewind it.
Christ is the King, And one day, every knee will bow and recognize it because he's not just my king, he's king of the universe. But when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews, you are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible. You are quoting scripture to your purposes, and that to me is specifically wicked. You know, when you spit that phrase.
So when Satan quoted the Bible, he was like twisting it, right? Just like when he told Eve that you can be like God. Well, he was twisting it, right? Yeah, you would be like God in the way that you would know the difference between good and evil. Like, I guess it wasn't a total lie, but obviously it wasn't true, right? And when he quotes scripture to Jesus, he was twisting it. So I don't think it's right to say that saying Christ is king is like how Satan quoted the Bible. That's so ridiculous to me. Anyways, he continues. This gets crazier.
Ben Shapiro, my
What
friend.
did he say about? Hold on.
Spit that phrase at Ben Shapiro,
Oh,
my friend Ben Shapiro. And you know, I understand this. All of you who love Ben, and I love Ben, and Jordan Peterson, you all want to see them find Jesus because you know what joy and freedom that gives you, and you certainly feel that it alters your relationship with God. But when I think about this, to be honest with you, you know, and I know some people will disagree with this, but life is not a game show where you guess the name of God and you get to go to heaven. Honk, you know, yes, the name is Jesus. I look at Ben's life and I think if Ben were to embrace Jesus Christ, it would cause devastation to his family, to the people who love him, to the people who listen to him, to his position in the world. I just have to.
so yeah, perhaps. And if he wouldn't be alone, that happens to everyone or almost everyone, right? If someone becomes a Christian, yeah, it's a life-changing thing. If one person in a marriage finds the Lord, it changes the dynamic of that marriage 100%. And your relationship with your family, depending on, you know, your circumstances. So I don't think that's necessarily unique to Ben because he's a Jew, right? So it's like, okay, let's see where he's going with this.
Feeling that God has put this guy where he wants him to do what he wants him to do. And as you know, I feel that, you know, the Jews were not abandoned by God.
So, wait a second.
Position in the world. I just have this feeling that God has put this guy where he wants him to do what he wants him to do. And as you know, I feel that, you know, the Jews were not abandoned by God.
Man, I've been thinking about this for the past day or so. I think I saw this yesterday, maybe the day before. Trying to understand where saying Christ is king is anti-Semitic. Trying to wrap my head around how that is. To be clear, Christ is the... In fact, you know what? It's on this anarcho-Christian flag behind me. Look, the very last line. No king but Christ. You know? It's kind of one of our mottos. You know, we don't have rulers of this world. My king is Christ. And there's nothing anti-Semitic about it. In fact, if you call yourself a Christian, that's what you do. You are a follower of Christ. You try to be like Christ. I got an error. Is this... Okay. No, it's working. I don't know why I got an error on my stream. Sorry about that. So yeah, you know, that's what it means to be a Christian. And in fact, if you don't acknowledge that Christ is your king, then I don't think you're a Christian. You know, he's the King of Kings, and it's explicitly mentioned like that in the Bible. You know, I mean, it's like the foundation of our religion, if you want to call it a religion. So I went to Twitter and was kind of reading some of the comments, and I saw like Jason Whitlock just like genuinely asking, like, hey, this is not a sarcastic question, but he's like, how is saying Christ is king anti-Semitic? When did this become true? Is it true? And I was kind of looking through the responses, trying to understand this a little bit. And I saw a lot of comments like this. No, a statement of one's faith is in no way degrading to another faith. Only people looking to be offended would feel this way. To believe Christ is king is anti-Semitic is to believe the gospel as well as the Great Commission is anti-Semitic. It's absurd in every front. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it seems to me. And then Lauren Chen said, it is being labeled anti-Semitic because it is an example of the fact that Judaism and Christianity are different religions, which is apparently alienating to some Jewish people. But again, that doesn't make it anti-Semitic. It's like that's the foundation of our religion. And then this guy said the words are not anti-Semitic, but as of late, the phrase is only used by anti-Semites to signal they're on team, quote, I hate the Jews. I suspect you know that, though. So kind of a snarky response, but if that's a new way to say that you hate the Jews, that's a new one for me, and it makes zero sense. And for anyone who sincerely believes that Christ is king, what are we told to do? We're told to love people. In fact, we're told to love our enemies. So to say that you hate people while simultaneously saying Christ is your king, those two things don't go together, right? So I don't know. Maybe perhaps some people are saying that, but yeah, this whole thing is, I've just been scratching my head trying to figure it out. It's almost as if folks like Ben Shapiro and that dude there, they're almost worse than the leftists who are offended by everything, or they're a victim in every circumstance. Oh, it's because of my skin color. Oh, it's because of, my, sexual preferences or, whatever. I'm part of the LGBT community. I'm a victim, blah, 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 blah. I'm a woman. I'm a victim. And it's kind of like everywhere Ben Shapiro turns around, he sees everything as being anti-Semitic. And it's not just him, but he's kind of like the head of the Daily Wire. And they have that same victim mentality, which is just mind-boggling to me. So with all that said, Christ is my king. He's the King of Kings. And I'm not anti-Semitic, so I don't know. That's, maybe I'll read more about this. Maybe the Jewish folks are just mad that we believe that. Anyways, I don't know. I have nothing else more to say on that until I kind of understand their position a little more. But, boy, did you also catch that on Andrew Klavan's thing? Where there certainly is an air of superiority. We're God's chosen people. We're not like the rest of you. And I thought he was a Christian, and he seemed to still have that same kind of attitude, which is bizarre to me. Moving along. Oh, no, I have another one. People who say that believe that God has permanently forsaken Israel since they rejected the kingdom Jesus offered. Since they violated the terms, God has transferred the promised blessings of their covenant to Christians who've accepted a new covenant and become the new Israel. Okay, wait, do I have another one on here? Oh, no, that's it. All right, I'm moving on. Maybe once I understand their position a little more, I'd have more to say, but let's just say I strongly disagree with that whole premise. Moving on, I wanted to talk about the quote-unquote deep state. Now, if you remember, this is an article from 2017. If you remember, 5 to 8 years ago, whenever the deep state was brought up, this was like a right-wing conspiracy theory. I'm not kidding you. And this is kind of what they would call, like when Trump said this, or if anyone else said this, they would say you're a crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist. There's no such thing as the deep state. You're crazy, right? So CNN back in 2017 called it a myth, right? And this is back when they were wiretapping Donald Trump, I believe. And then this is from the article. It says the deep state concept is nonsense, a product of Soviet Cold War propaganda, domestic leftist and right-wing conspiracy thinking, see, and the unintended consequence of the long-time official practice of plausible deniability that sought plausibly to disconnect POTUS from any responsibility for U.S. covert action. So this was clearly a conspiracy theory. It was nonsense. You're crazy if you think there's a deep state. Again, in 2017, from Newsweek, how a conspiracy theory went from political fringe to mainstream. And whoever this guy, he served as the CIA director under Obama and George Bush. He said, deep state I would never use. That's a phrase we've used for Turkey and other countries like that, but not the American Republic. But the concept, this is no longer a quote from him, but from the article, but the concept of a deep state is regarded as credible by most Americans, with 48% of Americans believing in its existence. So, half the country believes there is a deep state, at least as of 2017. And if you're living in 2024 and you don't think there's a deep state, I don't know. There's not much hope for you. So then in 2020, you started seeing articles like, well, the deep state is real, but it's not what Trump thinks it is, right? So then you're like, well, I guess we can't deny that there's this cabal of people who control everything and they're really running the government. But it's not like what Trump is really saying, right? And then, this is why I'm talking about this. This past week in the New York Times, I'm not kidding you, this is a headline. It turns out the deep state is actually kind of awesome. So we went from saying it doesn't exist, and you're crazy, to it exists and it's awesome. It's actually amazing. It's wild, right? I don't have a subscription to the New York Times, and I had no interest in really reading this, but I did read an article talking about it. And apparently the gist of that opinion piece was they took a cross-country trip for a project to humanize the deep state, declaring it to be kind of awesome in its new report. To paint Trump's claims as paranoid, the authors traveled to meet various federal government workers throughout the country and put a spotlight on how normal and down-to-earth these people are. The article stated, as we met the Americans who were being dismissed as public enemies, we discovered that they are like us. They like Taylor Swift. They dance bachata. I don't even know what that is. They go to bed at night watching Star Trek reruns. They go to work and do their jobs, saving us from Armageddon. How blue pill do you have to be to think that the deep state is saving us from Armageddon? That is so funny to me. What do we got here? Oh, so it reminded me of these old commercials. Now, I don't know, videos that the CIA put out. And this is one of them where they tried to do this exact same thing. So check this out.
What led me to CIA? That's a very interesting story. I was a college student. I was low vision at that time. I still used handheld magnifying glasses to work or to read. I was not.
Need I say more? So the CIA puts out this video, and I forget what it was called. It was something like They're Like Us or Humans of the CIA or something like that, where they tell a story of them hiring literally a blind person and say, see, we hire everyday normal Americans, even blind people. I can only guess that the only reason they hired her was because they hired her to be an ethics manager or to see if anyone had any ethical violations. Nothing to see here. Actually, it says she was a receptionist, if you can believe that. What in the fresh hell is that about? They hire a blind receptionist. I don't even know what to say. Now listen, I have nothing against blind people working. That's amazing if you can. But let's be honest. This is not what the CIA is about, right? This is 0.5% of what the CIA actually is. And then of course they incorporate this kind of stuff into it. And they had another one of this chick that had 2 moms and this and another thing. Yeah, okay. Obviously it's the direction they were going. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, one was that New York Times headline. But I saw a recent video of, I forget her name, from the Young Turks. It's this guy's counterpart. So this is Cenk Uygur. So I got a couple of videos just showing you that, some of these progressives out there, how they view the CIA.
There was a time in America.
Oh, Anna Kasparian. That's her name. So you got to listen to this. I think this is new or recent.
There was a time in America where the State Department the Pentagon would orchestrate and carry out coups in, Latin American countries, for instance, or in Iran. Like there was a time when the government engaged in all sorts of unsavory schemes across the globe. That's definitely true, okay? That's not the government we have today. How does it?
She did the meme, and I could not find this meme. I must have seen this thing a dozen times over the last 5-10 years. But sure, it says something to the effect of, sure, the CIA has done horrible things in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. But they're okay now. They're not doing anything. Again, even someone who acknowledges how crazy and corrupt and evil the CIA was, somehow thinks that there's nothing to see here now. They're nothing but people with good intentions, right?
Anyone look at honestly, I don't think the current federal government is even competent enough to carry out a coup. I mean, they tried multiple times in Venezuela and failed. And the way, some of the
yeah, I mean, no one ever said they were competent. It's that they're evil.
The Republicans, quite honestly, talk about the federal government makes me think, oh my God, they're asleep at the wheel. They don't understand just how incompetent the federal government is. They can't get anything straight. They can't get anything straight. And you guys think that they're wiretapping you and they're scheming and they're planning on.
They are wiretapping you.
Throwing Tucker Carlson in prison?
Yeah, they would love to if they could, but the country would have an uproar.
Talking to Vladimir Putin? Really?
Yes. That is her example. Tucker Carlson had proof that they were reading his text messages and emails to prevent him from going. Back when he was a reporter or, an employee of Fox News. This is That's exactly what happened. What this lady.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, look, man, I interviewed the CIA agent a long time
Boy, it's hard to find someone dumber than her, but then this guy's pops into the frame.
ago, about now nearly 10 years ago. It was a really amazing interview. She told me about honeypot schemes and stuff and how they trick their targets into thinking that they're going to get a sexual relation. Like, it was an amazing, very candid interview. And she's like, look, with this whole thing, and that deep state stuff on the right wing hadn't started yet. But she's like, the number one problem with the CIA is they've become bureaucrats. And
He's apparently agreeing with her and saying the same thing. Like, sure, they used to blackmail people for sexual crimes and whatnot, but they don't do that anymore. They're bureaucrats. They're just people sitting behind a desk. Again, I don't know how dumb you have to be to actually believe that. But you have to have your head stuck in the ground to know. Listen, I wrote down, and in fact, this is on Wikipedia. If you just Google CIA controversies or something to that effect, you'll get a whole list of things that the CIA specifically, and I'm only talking about the CIA, mostly because they are they're the worst of the worst, right? They're accountable to literally no one, maybe besides the president. But often they control the president. They have an unlimited budget. Everything they do is in secret. And what do you think's going to happen when you have a group of people who have that much power with an unlimited budget? They're going to do evil things because human beings are evil. Look. Oh, right off the bat, they torture folks. Remember Obama? Oh, we've tortured some folks. Was anyone held accountable for that? Absolutely not. Well, we all know about the mind control kind of things they were doing back in the day. I don't know. Maybe they are trying to do that now. Elon Musk trying to do his Neuralink thing, which is also crazy. Of course, they were looking at deadly toxins to be used against their enemies, domestic wiretapping, which is probably, ramped up to a level our brains can't even comprehend. They fund and train groups that later kill civilians, of course, or attack Americans. We fund people that eventually attack us. Huge on propaganda. They infiltrate news organizations. That's been true for decades. And in fact, now they don't even hide it anymore. It used to be they would infiltrate news organizations covertly. But now they just straight up hire the former head of the CIA. It's dead nuts. It's dead nuts. Right out in the open. Drug trafficking, of course. Arms trafficking. Recruitment of Nazis. Didn't even know they did that. It's on Wikipedia. I promise you. Of course, they lie to Congress, and there's no repercussions for it. They spy on Congress. And in fact, this is what Chuck Schumer had to say. Oh, we'll come back to that one. All right, we'll get to that later. But Chuck Schumer had comments about that. What I forget what this clip is. What does he say here?
I want to dive into the CIA issues. Let's talk CIA first. Yeah, it's funny, now that you mention it, you went to Cornell, right? I went to Penn. Yeah. Similar time, I graduated in 92, and I remember there was an opening at the CIA, and I think I had a conversation about it, and they're like, ooh, you're Turkish, and yeah, something, we could do that, and I was like, nah. Like in the old days, man, they could do some coups.
Yeah.
Now...
This guy is such a buffoon. I could have worked for the CIA, but I was like, nah.
I believe we have the opposite problem. They're not evil enough.
So obnoxious.
Okay, so here's what I mean by that.
He said they're not evil enough.
Okay, so here's, like in the old days, man, they could do some coups.
Yeah.
Now I believe we have the opposite problem. They're not evil enough. Okay.
Unbelievable.
So here's what I mean by that.
Evil light.
Right. They're the Diet Coke of evil. Okay. So not that they're not willing to do evil. They do drone strikes, killing innocent civilians all the time. That it's a giant bureaucracy, and that people don't want to risk their lives anymore. The movies are full of crap. You know, that there isn't like the guy who's like risking his life. Is he going to make it? Is he not going to make it? Oh my God, it's so exciting. Oh, no, I think.
All right, this guy is an absolute buffoon. The only CIA officer in prison for the torture program was the whistleblower who exposed it. It's absolutely true. Yeah, these people do the worst of the worst things. CIA staffers committed sex crimes against children, but weren't prosecuted. And look at this, 2021. This is not in the 70s or 80s or even the 90s. This is literally a couple years ago. What I'm trying to say is they will do the absolute worst things you can think of, all for the overarching view of national security. Anything they can do to preserve their power or what they perceive to be U.S. domination, they will do. And look at this clown who Trump appointed, Mike Pompeo.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. We had entire training courses.
And people clap and applaud. I mean, does that not just tell you everything you need to know? Does he say something else here?
It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Yeah, and it's a failed experiment. Because we have a rogue organization that lies, cheats, and steals as part of its motto, unofficial motto. And this guy's right up there with the worst of the worst. And then, this is a longer clip. I don't want to play it all, but this is just John Bolton. Back in the day, this is a little while ago, basically said he would do whatever it takes to protect America. Let me try to skip to it.
Claiming he's killing his own people. Question: don't the American people have the right to know that? And if so, didn't a good service come about as a result of these documents being revealed?
Now, I want to make the case for secrecy in government when it comes to the conduct of national security affairs.
See, anything for national security, he wants zero accountability for.
And possibly for deception where that's appropriate. Winston Churchill said during World War II that in wartime, truth is so important it should be surrounded by a bodyguard of lies.
Do you really believe that?
Absolutely.
You would lie in order to preserve the truth?
If I had to say something I knew was false to protect American national security, I would do it. I don't think we're off.
Did you see it? Let me play that again.
Of the truth.
If I had to say something I knew was false to protect American national security, I would do it. I don't
see. So this is exactly what Mike Pompeo was just saying. They would lie, cheat, and steal because that's what they do, right? And both of these guys just admit it. Yeah, this is what we do. This is what we do. We're immoral, corrupt pieces of it.
Let me ask you. I don't know if you have.
And then Rachel Maddow, a few years ago, kind of hit Chuck Schumer with something that wasn't scripted because there was a tweet that Trump had just made. And listen to his comments, just kind of off the cuff here. Listen to this.
I don't want to blindside you with this. This is the latest statement, latest tweet, as you were just saying. The president-elect's latest unsolicited pronouncement on the intelligence community. This was his tweet just a little while ago tonight. You see the scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practice.
So who's really running the show? Who really runs the show in Washington? It's not a right-wing conspiracy to say there's a deep state. I mean, look, you have Chuck Schumer right there admitting it, right?
Practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence...
He said he's being really dumb, which tells you that no other politician in Washington, none, even question what the intelligence agencies do.
Community would do if they were motivated
I don't know,
to.
but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going. Look at the Russian.
So he immediately is like, hey, we need the intelligence community. I'm not one of the bad guys. Listen, guys, I love what you do. We need you guys. You guys are true heroes and patriots.
Hacking. Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
Do you think he has an agenda to try to dismantle parts of the intelligence community? I mean, this form of taunting hostility.
Please, I wish.
Whether you're a super liberal Democrat or a very conservative Republican, you should be against dismantling the intelligence community.
A rare moment of honesty from Chuck Schumer. Telling you, this is how they operate, man. It's crazy. This is the CIA award for excellence in journalism. Just ask Julian Assange. Although they haven't gotten to this point, although they really wanted to, they're just torturing him in prison and letting him die alone in a prison cell for exposing their war crimes. And who has been held accountable for the war crimes he's exposed? You guessed it, absolutely no one. Okay. Well, that's all I got. I just got one random video I found on TikTok a couple weeks ago. And then I have to go to a men's Bible study that we've been doing online, so looking forward to that. But this video, and everyone was dunking on this lady. She says something so outrageous and crazy that you're like, no one could possibly be this dumb, right? And it just gets you thinking that, like, how much of this content that we see on TikTok and social media is designed to get you to click and comment on it. And you'll see what I mean. Just watch this.
I can't be the only person on the planet that didn't know that you can just pick a piece of fruit off of a tree and eat it.
You see what I mean? No one's that dumb, right? No one's that dumb. Hold on.
I had a friend come over a few weeks ago and she was like, Carly, why do you have a bag of lemons in your fridge? And I said, oh, well, I use lemons in my cooking a lot and sometimes I put them in my sparkling water. And she was just like, no, but why do you have a bag of lemons from the store? And I said, oh, well, sometimes I cook with them and I also put them in. And she said, no, you have a lemon tree outside. And I said, okay. And she said, so why do you buy lemons? And I said, because I cook with them. And she said, Carly, you have a lemon tree. You just pick the lemons off the tree and you put them in your food or in your sparkling water. And I said, don't you have to do something to them? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, you don't have to do anything to the lemons? And she was pretty upset, which I guess I am one of the very few people. I didn't think that I was one of the very few people, but maybe I am one of the very few people that didn't know that there is nothing that you have to do to a lemon before you eat it from it.
See, it's so easy to react and laugh at it, but you're like, no way is this real. They're getting really good at making these videos to make you comment and watch it and share it, right? It's kind of like the rage, most social media posts to get you there to get you angry and riled up. and then you share it and you comment on it and all this kind of stuff. But now I think there's some clever folks out there who are just trolling you with like really dumb stuff like this. Or maybe I don't know. It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake nowadays. I don't know. Maybe there is someone dumb enough to think that you can't just go pick a lemon from a tree and cook with it or eat it. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Or maybe I'm just dumb. maybe this is real. I don't know. I'm just a little suspicious. Shoot. Anyways, all right, that's all I got. I'm really tired. And yeah, if you happen to watch this far, give it a like, and I will see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.